Okay, guys. Hello. Good evening once again. So, part two of our live telecast for the SMNI Presidential Debate 2022. Okay? So, kanina nung nililipat ko tong aking mga sa YouTube channel, no? Nakita ko yung binabanggit ni Professor Clarita Carlos na Quad. It's an Indo-Pacific alliance, no? Itong Quad. It's an uh, Indo-Pacific alliance of four countries, no? Led by the United States of America, then by India, Japan, and Australia, no? Australia. So, mean to say, ito yung alliance na sinasabi ni Professor Clarita Carlos, no? Na Quad. Kung sasama ba ang Pilipinas dito o hindi. Okay? So, kasi tinitingnan dito kung ano ba or what will be the purpose of Quad. Ano ba magiging purpose ng Quad? Ang Quad ba ay para sa economic uh, economic assistance, no? Or empowering the economy of the uh, economies of our other country, neighbors, or this this alliance is or was built or is built for the purpose of security, no? For the impending invasion of China, no? Doon sa mga kalapit bansa nito. All right, so excuse me. Kung continue natin yung ano, ang I think ang magtatanong na ngayon si Dante Ang, no? Dante Ang. Tingnan natin. Then let's analyze and review. Okay?
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Dante Ang.
Professor Carlos started us off with a foreign policy question, and I'd like to ask something similar where it converges with gut issues. The public discourse on the West Philippine Sea often glosses over the interests of the smallest stakeholders. It was refreshing to hear several candidates for president mention the need to allow Filipinos to fish in the disputed areas. But
So we're talking now about the West Philippine Sea, no? Yung mga ang problema naman dito yung mga mangingisda natin, mga fishermen, paano sila yung pangingisda nila, no? Kaya I think Professor Carlos has a book on this, no? Ang kanyang focus dito is regional fishing, no? All right, regional fishing if that will be mandated, no? At tingnan natin to, West Philippine Sea, kung ano yung mga sabi nila. And then after that, I will analyze, let us analyze, and then review and analyze it.
we have not heard specifics. The concern for our fisherfolk seems to be growing on a larger audience, particularly the young voters, as evidenced by the release just days ago of a music video featuring the rock band Sponge Cola and singer Karel. If elected president, how will you look after the interests of small fishermen who are occasionally harassed by foreign vessels and often crowded out in the controversial area by fishing boats from countries with competing territorial claims like Vietnam, Taiwan, and of course China?
The first candidate to answer this question is Secretary Ernie Abella.
West Philippine Sea tayo, no?
All right. The fisher folk would come under the agri-powerhouse. And in the same way that we have promised that we seek to provide as much support as we can, we'd also like to do the same thing for fisher folk. One of the things that has been proposed is that they be accompanied by our, from the CGs, white ships, that sort of thing. But on the other hand, first and foremost, maybe what we'd like to do is, we're trying to set up a board of agricultural investment who could probably bridge a conversation with this competing interests with Vietnam, let's say, or China. so that we can come to some sort of an agreement. We can have a conversation and allow them to be able to fish peaceably. We'd like to begin first by bridging those gaps between countries and not just allow it to not just allow tensions to fester on the sea, on the waters, so to speak. So we'd like to be able to first reach out economically, reach out diplomatically, and work out some sort of a system, some sort of a code of conduct to be able to handle that. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Abella. Same question.
Help out and reach out for the fishermen.
Ang problema talaga yung
Lodi.
ginagawa ng China dito sa ating mga mangingisda, no? At ang kailangan talaga natin ay hindi naman natin kayang labanan, gerahin yung China dahil sa klase ng inabot ng ating military capacity.
Gera agad yung concept nito.
Dapat gamitin natin yung panalo natin sa International Tribunal at kakampihin natin yung mga iba pang mga hinaharas ng China dito sa Southeast Asia para itulak yung mga bansa na signatory dito sa UNCLOS na sawayin. Pigilan itong China sa kanyang ginagawang pangharas dito sa ating mga mangingisda na hindi pinapayagan. At gamitin natin, siguro economic diplomacy, gamitin natin para i-pressure yung China na mapayagan o makapaghingisda yung ating mga mangingisda dito sa West Philippines Sea. Ito yung atin, dapat ito inirerespeto ng China bilang isang member din o signatories ng UNCLOS para sa ganun ay magkaroon tayo ng laya na makapangisda. At dagdagan natin ng Coast Guard.
It's just the same.
Para protektahan ang ating mga
foreign diplomacy is still the best. It's foreign diplomacy.
The same question, Secretary Gonzales.
Nakakalungkot ka na naiipit ang ating mga maliliit na
mangingisda.
Napakalaking issue. Ating hinaharap na sigurot sa China. Kaya tingin ko, dahil malaking usapin yan, para wag lang mapunta sa pangalan ng ating mga maliliit na mga isda na pupunta sa teritoryo, i-dispute today, may tutulungan lang muna natin ng gobyerno para wag sila maguto. In the meantime, kailangan ay suriin natin mabuti ang nangyayari sigalot sa West Philippine Sea. Iyan talaga ang ugat ng sovereignty ng maliliit nating mga isda. Huwag nating ipatong sa balikat ng mga maliliit ang malaking problema na hinaharap ng bansa. Tutulungan natin sila economically. Ilalabas natin sila sa panganib, pero haharapin natin ang China. Ang nakikita ko lang sa usapin na ito, para bang nawala ng respeto ang bansa China sa atin. Kaya kung tayo kikilos, uunahin natin ang pagbibigyan ng respeto sa ating bansa. Kung
Respect.
tayo pag-usap, dapat nire-respeto tayo. Kung wala yan, mahirap ang pag-usap.
Huwag
Kaya,
tayong
ang
makipag-usap sa China.
respeto para sa atin. May programa tayo para dyan.
We must talk with
Secretary
China.
Gonzales.
We must have
Senator Marcos.
Marami talaga tayong issue.
Senator
hindi sa conflicting
Marcos.
sa gitna ng Pilipinas at saka China. Kaya ngayon lang ang nakita kong national election na naging issue ang West Philippine Sea or ang foreign policy. Sa palagay ko, sa dami ng ating kailangan ayusin sa ating pagsasama, sa pagkaalyansa natin sa China, ay unahin natin ito. Ito ang pinakaunang na dapat natin simulaan, na makabalik ang mga mangingisda doon sa kanilang palaisdaan na matagal na ang ginagamit na daang-daang taon na.
correct.
Siguro naman, may papaliwanag natin sa China na ang mga bangka ay
It's
hindi
diplomacy.
military threat yan sa kanila. Bakit sila maglalagay ng warship doon? Ngunit kailangan natin mag-responde. Kung maulit yung nangyari noon, tayo magpadala naman tayo ng Navy o kahit ng Coast Guard para merong military presence, meron tayong presence of the state na nandun, na nasa lugar na yun. Pangalawa,
puntahan natin
It's
ang
still
ASEAN
diplomacy.
at magpatulong tayo sa ASEAN. Dahil ang ASEAN ay
The ASEAN.
meron ding binubuo na code of conduct para sa ASEAN at saka sa China.
Mhm.
At sana maipasa na yan. Punta pati tayo sa UN at magpadala tayo ng delegation sa Beijing para kausapin ang Presidente Xi at sasabihin paano ba natin ayusin ito at paano ba natin gagawin para hindi na maulit ito nangyari sa nakaraan.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. Mr. Ang, any follow-up questions?
Yes, the question is what specific policies you will
What specific?
adopt, and Senator Marcos, you mentioned in the interview you had with DZRH and the Manila Times earlier that you wanted to use diplomacy over military solutions. I mean, are you changing that policy now?
No.
And in that same interview, Cagliodi was saying that he wanted to make the West Philippine Sea a zone of peace. And now he's talking about possibly escalating the situation in that area. It's undeniably that we have to deal with China. The question is, as president, how will you do it?
No, the reason I spoke about the putting a military presence there is so that the government, the Republic of the Philippines, has a presence there to show to China that we are defending what we consider our territorial waters. And that is not for them to go there to fire upon the Chinese vessels, but merely to make.
So ang gusto kasi mangyari ni Senator Marcos, magpapadala tayo ng military presence diyan sa West Philippine Sea just to give idea that that is our territory para doon sa mga Chinese, no? But ipapadala doon yung mga military, no? Military armaments, hindi upang makipagdigma, kundi sabihin lang, ma-imply doon sa mga Chinese na mayroong tao ron at ito ay kiniklaim ng Pilipinas. Yan ang gustong mangyari. But ang pagpapadala ng barko doon ng mga pandigma ay hindi upang makipagdigmaan sa China. Yan ang ibig sabihin ni Senator Marcos. Just to show na amin ito, no, sa West Philippine Sea.
Their presence felt so that the Chinese know we are aware of what
Para
we are
maramdaman.
doing. We do not agree with what they are doing, and we carry on with our diplomatic back channel, side channel, whatever way
Okay.
we can do to fix the problem and make us have a system so that we no longer have this problem again.
Okay.
Cagliodi, you want to? I mentioned that you mentioned in that question.
Tama ka. Talagang ang aking programa talaga ay i-convert itong West Philippine Sea kasi malawak na usapin ito. I-convert itong West Philippine Sea into a economic zone at hindi war zone.
Economic
Kaya
zone.
ito'y mag-coordinate yung lahat ng mga claimants na sa mga teritoryo dito sa West.
So there's a territorial
West
dispute,
Philippine Sea,
no?
na
Sa West Philippine
kasundo
Sea.
at magsama-sama para hindi para makipaggera sa China, kundi dapat ipakita sa China yung pagkakaisa ng mga bansang ito. At tulad ng sinabi mo kanina, dapat ay obligahin o usapin yung lahat ng signatory doon sa UNCLOS na may nagkasundo sa ganung patakaran na igalang, respeto ng China yung kanilang mga pinirmahan. At sa ganun ay tigilan niya yung kanyang pangharas o panglalaman dito sa mga bansa dito sa West Philippine Sea.
One follow-up question, Kerry.
Of course, Mr. Ang.
This one's directed at first to Secretary Roberto Gonzales, and I'd like you to wear your former hat as Defense Secretary, sir. And in a previous editorial we have written in the Manila Times, I have written, we quoted the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations, specifically the chairman, Rafi Alunan, who said that in his observation, those who are crowded out from fishing in that area, these fishermen often turn to alternative means of livelihood, primarily piracy and who knows what, probably smuggling. Do you have similar observations, and what policy prescriptions would you have to address that specific issue?
I think firstly, we have to make clear to China that we cannot be pulled into an argument that is superficial to the real question in the area. They're trying to provide us with an emotional event or
They're
activity,
trying to bully us, Secretary
sports are
Nograles.
not able to
That's the right
finish.
concept.
What China is doing
They're trying to bully.
behind this, they're actually selling this fish as what they call as some kind of a fish for nationalism. Sinasabi nila na itong mga isda na to dapat binabayaran ng mas mahal kasi ito ay nahuhuli sa isang lugar na ipinagtatanggol natin. They're making this issue. They're using our fisher folks to make this issue as simplistic as an issue of fisher folks that being able to fish in their area that is theirs. If I will be given a time, I'll add a little more.
Well, sabi niyo po may programa kayo. Pwede po ba natin tumbukin in a few seconds? Ano po ba yung programa na yan?
Alam mo na wala ng respeto ang ibang bansa sa atin. Akala nila mabibili tayo, pwede tayong laro-laruin. Kailangan magpakita tayo ng kaunting, hindi para makipaggera. I was advocating national mobilization. What does this mean? Our young people should be trained for whatever exigency. There are signs that China might tempt us. Kasi alam natin ang China ayaw ng gera. Pero pagka territory ang question, nakikipag-gera sila. Tinatanggap natin, mahal ng China ang kanilang bansa. Handa sila makipag-gera kung kinakailangan para sa teritoryo. Dapat nating ipakita bilang bansa na kaya natin gawin yan. Mahal natin ang ating bayan. Handa rin
Pero,
tayo tumindig. Mahina tayo.
Pero Secretary Nograles, hindi tayo pwedeng makipagdigmaan. Kundi ang mangyayari sa atin, we will move by means of foreign diplomacy. No? Kasi we are a small country. So, foreign diplomatic relation is the answer. Yun lang naman ang answer sa babalitaktakan sila dyan. Ang pinaka-answer talaga dyan, no, ay foreign diplomatic relationship. Yun lang. Yun lang naman ang pinakasusi dyan. No? Magkaroon ng pabor ang isa at magkaroon ng pabor ang bansang Pilipinas. Mamumuhay tayo ng payapang sama-sama. Yun na sabi ko sa nung nabanggit ko nung una, yung coexistence. No?
Pero kailangan magsama.
Any reactions from our candidates? Secretary Ernie.
Yes. In this matter, I think we should continue to examine the COC ASEAN +1, the ASEAN +1 conversations with China. And in order to be able to address these things diplomatically before we engage in anything more drastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Ernie. Senator Marcos.
Yes, and furthermore, I think, as I said, that this is not something that that we should consider as isolated from the general problem or the general discussions that we are having with the People's Republic. It should be the first part, in my view, because what we are, as Filipinos, we are most concerned at this moment, the immediate concern, na makabalik ang mga mangingisda dun sa kanilang palisdaan. Yun ang unahin natin. Ngayon, pag nakahanap tayo ng
They need
kasunduan
to go back.
sa People's Republic of China, eh siguro baka nasimulaan na natin ang pag-uusap tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. Dahil kung nasabi natin, amin yan, at tumanggap sila, eh umpisa na yan. Diyan tayo magsisimula at dahan-dahanin natin itong problema na meron tayo sa China.
If China will accept.
Tulad na sinabi ko kanina, malalim yung yung dahilan ng China yung pagiging aggressive niya sa pagpunta dito sa West Philippine Sea, pagsakop sa ating mga teritoryo. Hindi lang yan, dagdag na lang yung pangingisda sa pinapangisda. Ang totoong dahilan ay yung presence ng Amerika dito, yung mga aircraft carrier niya dito. At yun ang gusto niyang proteksyonan, yung kanyang sariling bansa. Kaya yun ang problem kapag tayo kumampi, either sa Amerika o sa China, ay mayayari tayo. Mahiipit tayo sa kita dahil ito'y banggaan lang.
Hindi, mali ka.
Thank you, Kanyodi.
Mali si Leody kasi actually ipit na tayo eh. Hindi yung maiipit ka, guys. Hindi yung maiipit ka. Kumbaga, ipit na tayo. Kasi there's already a problem. There's already an existing problem. Nandiyan na yan. At ipit na ipit tayo between China and the United States of America. That's why the United States of America formed up here in the Indo-Pacific, what they call as the Quad, which is composed of the U.S., Japan, U.S., India, Japan, and Australia. Right? So what is the purpose of that alliance? No, for security purpose? Is it for an economic purpose? So in the meantime, it would be an economic purpose, but sa darating na mga panahon, malamang ito ay maging security purpose. No? That's what we meant by that. So hindi natin pwedeng umiwas itong si Calyodi. Sabi siya ng sabi na iiwas daw. We cannot avoid it because it's already there, no? It's already there. At mai-involve talaga tayo dahil we are in between, no? Okay. Let's continue.
Any further reactions from our candidates or rebuttals?
Masasabi ko lang, huwag natin payagan.
Yes, Secretary Gonzales.
Masasabi ko lang na huwag natin payagan na gamitin yung maliliit natin sa mga malalaking usapin. Hindi malaking gastos. At masasabi ko, matutuwa ang ating mga maliliit na mga isda na pumupunta doon kung bibigyan sila natin ng ibang opportunities economically. At pwedeng paliwanagan ng ating mga isda na ito usapin ng bayan natin. Kaya huwag muna kayong mag-isda dyan. Huwag kayong paggamit. Kasi ginagamit ang issue nito para takpan ang tunay na malaking issue sa West Philippine Sea.
We have a follow-up question from Professor Clarita Carlos.
There.
Yes, there is no doubt that what is being fought over here is fish, is that. No? And so there is also no doubt that the food security of China cannot be at the expense of the food insecurity of the rest of us. Now let's move away from the pseudo-militaristic perspectives that some of you have noted earlier. And how about thinking about a regional fishing agreement, which is along the lines that Mr. Abella talked about a while back?
Regional fishing agreement.
The reason why I talked about that is, well, there's a personal reason because I'm writing a book on regional fishing agreement.
Regional
And
fishing
since
agreement. No?
any one of you will become the President of the Republic of the Philippines, I was wondering if it is worth writing that book on a regional fishing agreement.
Why not?
Who wants to take on that question and statement
If I
first?
may,
Senator Marcos.
Regional fishing holiday.
That this is about fish. It is not about fish, in my view. It is about territorial waters.
Okay, actually pinapaliwanag dito na si Professor Clarita Carlos, she is making a book regarding regional fishing agreement. No, so for her, the problem there is fish, no, yung pinaka fish talaga. Kasi actually ako as an economic professor, I'm also discussing to my student na the reason why there is a conflict here on earth, no, majority of them exist on what we call as economic problem. Laging economic problem. Dito, tama si Professor Clarita Carlos kasi when we talk about fish, it pertains to an economic problem. All right? So a lot of country are disputing this territory just to get we think fish or an oil or whatever it is. Kahit ganun pa man yan, kahit isda ba yan, langis, no? Yan ay pupunta rin doon sa tinatawag nating economic problem. But for Senator Bongbong Marcos, he did not agree that it's only for because it's only for a fish. Para po kay Senator Bongbong Marcos, it's because of territorial integrity, no? It's territorial integrity. So, meaning to say, it also pertains to an economic problem. Kasi nga, ang economic problem natin dyan, makikita, yung land, labor, capital, no? Papasok dyan, especially, specifically with the land. But here, we're talking about the territory. No, we're talking about the territory. We're talking about the territorial dispute, no? Between two or more countries, no? Na pinag-aagawan yung West Philippine Sea na yan. Right? Tignan natin.
And that when we have these 200 Chinese boats coming and blocking our fishermen, it is to assert their claim that this is part of their territorial water. And that is why you cannot separate the problems that we're having with the fishermen from the larger problem that we are having in our conflicting claims with China, and for that matter, for other countries in Asia. And that's why we have to look at it as maybe an opening. I always mention this, that we have to try every single way that we can. And I remind everyone that China and the United States came together because of ping pong. And who would have thought that that's where it would start? Who knows where our coming together will start?
But isn't that related, Mr. Marcos, to my earlier question about the Quad? You know, if you have a whole array of, militia there, wanting to take over the whole of the contested South China Sea, shouldn't you lean on the Quad as a collective security arrangement?
No, because that is a military solution. And that proposes a military solution. And I do not think we want a military solution because we simply do not want a war. I do not think China wants a war. I do not think the United States wants a war. The Philippines certainly does not want a war.
Well, but Mr. Gonzalez just said that China only recognizes naked power. So what are we talking about?
I don't think that is the method for us to come to an agreement with the People's Republic of China. There are three ways to gain territory. One is upon agreement with arbitration by an international body, agreement of two or more parties. Number two is war. And number three is bilateral agreement. We're left only, I think, with bilateral agreement. And that's what we should pursue.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Secretary Gonzalez wants to react.
Precisely what Dr. Carlos says. The presence of the superpowers in our region will actually prevent war. That is an opening for us to gain something that we have lost. And this is respect of other nations. You know, we may have our army may be weak in terms of equipment, but our nation is rich in the hearts of young people who can show to the world that are willing to stand a challenge. I do not think there will be war. As Dr. Carl said, the superpowers are there. China will not dare challenge that. That's a beautiful situation in our area of the world today. Let's take advantage of this. Let us show that our young people can do something.
Okay, cut it out. Next.
Thank you, Secretary Gonzalez. Any reaction or rebuttal from our candidates?
I would still go back to having multilateral relationship regarding that matter. So I would still refer back to ASEAN plus China. ASEAN, it's a
Multilateral yun. Multilateral po yun.
So,
ASEAN and China.
Because, as we all know,
Agreement, multilateral
our
agreement.
is sensitive to international.
But a moment ago, Senator Bongbong Marcos is proposing a bilateral agreement between China and the Philippines, no? But this Secretary Abella is proposing a multilateral agreement between the ASEAN countries towards China, all right, to solve the territorial dispute.
Any reactions? Secretary Gonzalez again?
I agree with ASEAN.
ASEAN plus one, yeah.
ASEAN plus one. Maybe if it's ASEAN plus one, we have to make it ASEAN 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you know.
ASEAN plus
maybe
one.
It's ASEAN plus one if we want a dialogue.
Isda muna.
So ASEAN, yes, because we belong to ASEAN. We need our neighbors in this business. But if we want to engage with other countries like China, then we have to, I think, to also talk to other big countries in the area. But I would like to go back to my.
Secretary, we're out of time for your reaction.
Yes.
Senator Marcos, I think you're.
I cannot see though what in this formulation, how we are going to tell our fishermen, wag muna kayo mangisda dyan. Anong hanap buhay nila? Anong kakainin
Oh,
nila?
ano,
Kailangan
what
natin ayusin
what will the
ang
government
yan
provide?
in whatever way we can.
Yes, that's
Kaya
correct
kailangan
for
isama
Senator
natin,
Marcos.
Gawing bahagi ng malaking usapan
Oo
sa
nga.
China. Yung unahin na natin, yung naging lagay ng ating mga mangingisda. Doon natin simulan.
Oo.
Malay natin. Pag nasimulan natin dyan, ay lalawak ang usapan natin at kaganda.
Ano ang gagawing
But
tulong para sa mga
wouldn't
mangingisda
a legal
para kay
framework
Senator Marcos?
called the Regional Fishing Agreement be a solution to that? Because right now, what China is doing is unilaterally declaring a fishing holiday. You know, like, wow, bawal mangisda ngayon, ha? Sa susunod na buwan ka mangisda, ha? So, you know, she's stepping up.
Okay, so mean to say, Professor Clarita Carlos said that China is declaring a unilateral, no, unilateral agreement declaring that it's a fish holiday, bawal mangisda sa South China Sea, sa West Philippine Sea, ang mga claimants, no, na doon sa area na mayroong territorial dispute. So it's a fish holiday. All right, so tignan natin.
The rules for this contested South China Sea. So, if you were the chief architect of our foreign policy, wouldn't you want a regional fishing agreement where every country watched by the East China and
Tama
the
nga
contested
naman.
South China Sea are
Oo.
participants or members? And if I may
A
ask,
regional
Mr.
fishing
Covering
agreement.
the parade of Mr. Abella and Mr. Gonzalez, I
Absolutely.
don't think we should lean on ASEAN.
Ah.
You know, the countries which are fed by the Mekong River, I'm sure they will cotton on to China. Because the Mekong rises from China. Big mo sabihin, wala kang tubig sa agriculture mo sa inyong tao, and we're talking about Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar. Diba? So, yeah, to repeat, I'm not raining on your parade, but I doubt very much that we should lead on ASEAN.
ASEAN. So Professor
The
Clarita Carlos is doubting on the ASEAN.
Will be included in any code of conduct that we agree with China and ASEAN. That definitely should be part of it because it is not a problem that we are suffering by ourselves. Other members of ASEAN have the same problem, and that is why it will be critical to have a robust and effective code of conduct between ASEAN and China must include the issue of fishing rights.
Yes, that's my point. Pull the leg of China into a regional fishing agreement.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
they already have entered into an agreement into a code of conduct agreement years ago.
Yeah, but they're doing bilateral.
They are trying to do it bilaterally, and that's why I think it is more to China prefers to handle these issues bilaterally between their country and another country. But I think that the multilateral approach is still going to be important.
Okay.
We'll pursue every avenue that we can.
And Secretary Gonzalez, I can see you raising your hand as well as Calioni. In that order, sir. You were first, Secretary Gonzalez.
I agree with the regional fishing agreement. That's very important. We can discuss that. But precisely, what the Chinese is trying to do with our small fisher folks is to actually move us away from the major issue that we are facing in the
Hindi kasi bawal mangisda, hindi na makapangisda yung ating mga mangingisda, no?
territory.
So dapat ang pamahalaan natin ay magbigay ng hanap buhay para doon sa mangingisda na hindi makapangisda.
Facility in that part.
Dapat yun ang iniisip nila mga presidential aspirant, kung
China,
ano
it's
ang
ours. They
gagawing
are
hanap buhay
establishing
para sa mga
a
mangingisda.
forward defensive strategy, and sometimes we want. Well, I will not wonder why.
I-second prioritize na yung agreements na
Speaking
yan.
of Calyodi, you're next.
Tingin ko talagang posible at magkakasundo doon sa regional agreement para doon sa karapatan ng bawat isa na mangisda. As long as hindi tayo mawing-question doon sa pangangamkam ng teritoryo ng China. Pero once na tinuloy-tuloy natin ang ating question sa pangangamkam ng teritoryo ng China dito sa West Philippine Sea, hindi sila napapayag. Dahil yun ang pinaka-importante sa kanila. Ang importante sa kanila ay makapagtayo ng base militar diyan sa lugar na yan para i-counter ang move ng US, ng Australia, ng Japan, na sinisirkel, pakaramdam ng China, sinisirkel siya. Kaya gumagawa siya ng paraan para
Sinisirkel.
Sinisirkel. Pagkukordon ng China, ng US at ng mga allied niya sa China. Pero kung fishing lang, tingin ko aabot doon. Pero huwag ka makikialam.
Sinisirkel kasi sinisirkel.
Thank you, Calyodi. And I think the question of Mr. Ang really is an indication of how complex this issue is and the amount of time we took in discussing the answers to this question. And we'll have to go on a commercial break for now. SMNI Presidential Debate 2022 will be...
I-forward natin.
And now we have an additional question from our panelist, SMNI News Senior Correspondent and Anchor MJ Mondehar. MJ, your question please.
MJ Mondehar.
Medyo mainit yung talakayan sa issue ng China and West Philippine Sea. Now let's get back to the basics. Gentlemen, if you become the next President of the Republic, how do you plan to feed the 110 million Filipinos and the next generation if the prices of staple foods continue to increase? Specific po sana ang paglalatag po ng mga plano. Maraming salamat.
Okay, magandang tanong yan,
For this
guys.
question, we'll have Calyodi as the first candidate to answer.
Ang plano ko ay tulad ng una kong sinabi kanina, talagang dapat buhusan natin ng malaking pondo, doblehin ang pondong ilalaan natin para sa pagpapaunlad ng ating agrikultura, ng ating mga magsasaka, ng ating mga mangingisda, ng ating mga naghahayop upang palakihin ang kailang ani at mag-invest tayo doon sa research and development para masigit pang paramihin yung huli ng ating mga mangingisda. Hindi dapat tayo mag-i-import ng mga sibuyas, bawang at galunggong. Gayong napaka-agricultural ng ating bansa. Kaya kinakailangan nating gumawa ng roadmap para pagpapaunlad ng ating sakahan. At itigil natin yung rice tarification law na nagpapahirap doon sa ating mga magsasaka. Yun ang ating gagawin. And then tayo ng post-harvest facilities. Nang sa ganon, ay matiyak natin yung balance ng supply. No?
Actually, isa lang naman yan kamukha nung kanina. Lahat naman sila nagpatungkol about agriculture. They want to stabilize the agriculture in the Philippines. Pero itong kay Secretary Abella, ang gusto niya ay magkaroon ng, ano yung sinabi niya kanina, ile-level up niya yung agriculture, no? Kay Secretary Abella. Right? Yun ang ano. Pero lahat sila, ito, napanood ko kasi ito no, lahat sila is about, they want to establish a strong agriculture in the Philippines. Kaya sinasabi ko to nung nakaraan pa, itong nakaraang live natin, na agriculture nga yung foundation ng isang economy. And ano ba yung sinasabi ni Secretary Abella? Mega industry. So Secretary Abella wanted agriculture as a mega industry. All right?
Pagkain natin. At sa eksakto, dapat nating tugunin. Kung kaya natin kalahati ng ginagastos ng ating mga magsasaka, gawin natin. Nang sa ganun, ay lalo maingganyo sila ng pagsasaka at yung ating yung anak ng mga magsasaka ay huwag tumakas sa kanilang sakahan at ipagpatuloy ang ginagawa ng kanilang mga magsasaka.
Thank you, Kayodi. Next, Secretary Gonzalez, same question.
Well, agrikultura talaga ang departamento na gagamitin natin para magkaroon tayo ng sapat na pagkain. Maayos natin ang ating food security. Pagyayamanin natin ang pagtatanim sa bukid at sa karagatan, sa mga bodies of water. Practice yan sa iba't ibang bansa na sinisid natin ang mga bodies of water. At siguro, ayusin din natin ang ating other sources of protein, like yung kalabaw. Siguro makikiusap tayo sa Kongreso na payagan na natin kainin yung kalabaw. Hindi natin kinakain yun.
So, oh my God. So, Secretary Nograles wanted to eat the Carabao. So, he asks to Congress to allow to eat Carabao here in the Philippines.
So, these things are known by our technical people in the Department of Agriculture. Pero meron akong gusto ililagay na isang subject as an adjunct to the agriculture. Iyan ay ang ating usapin sa lupa. Ang agrikultura natin ay hindi yumayabong kasi may mga diferensya tayo sa ibang batas at policy natin sa agrikultura. I'm specifically mentioning our law on agrarian reform.
Yeah. Maganda yan.
Ang mga malalaking lupay.
Kasi actually, guys, when we talk about agrarian reform, pag sinabing agrarian reform, it only focuses on the situation of the farmers. But under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, ang pinatutungkulan lang dito ay yung kalagayan ng mga magsasaka. No? Doon inano ni Pangulong Cory Aquino, para mapaayos yung kalagayan ng mga magsasaka. Subalit, kumbaga ang ginawa nila Pangulong Cory Aquino dito, dinivert niya sa totoong problema, which is land reform. Dapat yung mga lupa ay naibigay sa mga magsasaka upang magkaroon sila ng sariling sakahang lupa. Subalit, nung maupo si Pangulong Cory Aquino, ang ginawa niya upang matugunan ang problema about land reform, nagsabatas siya ng Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, yun yung CARP, na kung saan ay hindi naman ibibigay ang lupa sa mga magsasaka. Kung bagkus ang tinignan dito ay ang kabuhayan ng mga magsasaka. Binigyan sila ng mga pautang, binigyan sila ng mga abono, binigyan sila ng mga butil upang ipananim. Pero yung totoong problema, hindi na solusyonan. Yun ang lupa. Kaya itong problema nito hanggang ngayon, lupa para sa mga magsasaka, ay lalong lumalala at marami pang namamatay. So meaning to say, noon pa yan. So may pagkakamali, may pagkakamali na dapat ngayon ay masolusyonan at magkaroon ng reformang panlupa, reformang panlupa, reformang pansakahan, hindi yung batas na nagawa na Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. Hindi siya, obsolete na yun. So sana mabago na siya.
Na ang iba ay sinasaka ng mga nakakaintindi ng agrikultura, pinagputol-putol natin, ipinabigay natin. Dapat tignan natin mabuti. Ano nangyari sa kabuhayan ng mga maliliit?
Thank you, Secretary. Unfortunately, out of time. Next, we have Senator Marcos answering the same question.
Ganun talaga, kailangan natin ayusin ang sektor natin ng agrikultura. At nakita ka agad dito nung pagdating ng pandemya na hindi tayo nakapag-supply ng pagkain para sa ating mga kababayan.
Dito magiging pattern ni Senator Bongbong Marcos yung yung ginawa ng kanyang ama na si President Ferdinand Marcos, no, ng mga programa upang maging aktibo ang agrikultura. Pakinggan natin. Magandang gagawin na yun. Maganda yun para gawin at yun pala ay magiging modelo ni Senator Marcos, Senator Bongbong Marcos, yung ginawa ng kanyang amang programa upang i-apply ngayon yan dito sa ating bansa sa agricultural sector. Tignan natin. Kasi actually napabayaan na yan ah, ng 5 presidenteng nakaraan. Yan ay napabayaan. Yung panahon ni Pangulong Cory Aquino, Pangulong Fidel Valdez Ramos, Pangulong Joseph Estrada, Pangulong Gloria Arroyo, Pangulong Noynoy Aquino, napabayaan nila ang agrikultura, no? Kaya ito sa ngayon, no, magiging maganda na kung sakali.
Dahil umaasa na lang tayo sa importation.
Yan. Mas mataas po ang importation ngayon, no? Kaya nga sabi ko dun sa klase ko na yung under the trade policy, kung makikita natin, no, under economic policy, mas mataas ang importation kaysa sa exportation. So mean to say, there will be deficit, no? Magkakaroon tayo ng budget deficit. Hindi magiging balance, there will be no equilibrium.
Sa tayo sa importation dahil hindi na pinaganda ang agricultural sector.
Napabayaan siya.
Ayon ako sa sinabi ni Carlo din na dapat ibisahan natin sa R&D. Kailangan yung
Research and development.
Change ngayon, yung mga bagong varieties ng palay, ng kahit ng lahat ng tanim ay pag-aralan natin para mas maganda magiging ani. Tapos lahat ng ayuda, lahat ng fertilizer, lahat ng pesticide, dapat makabili tayo ng mura. Tapos may pautang. Siyempre kasama din yung patubig. Hanggang sa post-harvest facilities, hanggang sa processing, dadagdagan ko lang hanggang sa pag-retail. Dahil kung ang gobyerno ang humahawak sa buong production sa buong linya ng produksyon hanggat sa pagbenta sa retail, ay ang gobyerno ay hindi dapat kumita. Kaya maipagbibili nila ng mas mura. Dito ay naranasan na natin ito. Nung nagkaroon tayo ng masagana na dun sa production, meron tayong Erie, at Phil Rice, dun sa rice. Meron tayong FTI dun sa
FTI.
MFA, ng price stabilization, hanggang sa Kabiwa store.
Alright,
Yun siguro
Kabiwa
ang
store.
model na pwede natin gayaan.
Maganda yung ginawa ni
Thank you.
Apulacay, no? President Ferdinand Marcos.
Salamat. One of the first things we'd like to do pag nagsimula at
Mega industry
tayo, is to be able to set up a Board of Agricultural Investments. Now, it will be directly under
Board
the
of
President.
Agricultural
We can work
Investments,
closely with
BAI.
Board of Agriculture. Department of Agriculture can provide the technical, and the Board of Agricultural Investment can provide the entrepreneurial aspects for this. No? Ang talaga natin is na gawin talagang mega industry.
Mega industry. Para kay Secretary
And,
Abella.
maybe tatanong kayo, how do you fund it? Among other things, we'd like to be able to access at least 1% of GDP. 2021 ang GDP po natin na 17.5 trillion. So mga 1% of that would be about 150 billion na kung pwede natin magamit siya in order to develop this mega industry. Ang gusto po natin mangyari is to increase wages, increase revenue, rural income, at to protect, magkaroon tayo ng konti economic nationalism. I know it's but anyway, to be able to protect our national agriculture industry, at pangalawa po is to be able to develop an act.
Gusto ko lang magdagdag pa.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gaglioni raised this.
Pangalawa po is to be able to develop an actual, a serious, a real, honest to goodness Filipino industry. Thank you.
Gaglioni raised his hand. I think he wants. Do you want to react, Gaglioni, to any of the statements?
Gusto ko lang magdagdag pa.
Okay.
Isang malaking pagkukunan pa rin para ma-produce yung maraming pagkain. Balik natin yung moratorium doon sa mining
Moratorium.
na nilip ni Pangulong Duterte. ibalik natin yung moratorium at yung 30, halos 30% yan yung kalupaan ibinigay sa mga miners ay ibalik natin, gawin natin agriculture, patayman natin ang pagkain para sa ating mamaya.
Any reaction from the candidates from the statements? May I just remind the candidates, we're supposed to react and not add to our answer to the question because of the time limit that's given. Okay, Secretary Gonzalez.
Well, hindi natin pwedeng ilayo ang usapin ng lupa sa usapin ng agrikultura. Dapat i-examine natin yung mga batas. Katulad ng agrarian reform ay pag nangyayari tuloy, hinati-hati natin at dapat malalaking lupain na pwede gamitin sa modernization ng ating agrikultura. Yung sinasabi ni Calvio na yung mga mining industry, land use policy ang importante natin linawin.
Tama yun, tama.
Malaki ang
Secretary Norberto.
ang usapin ng lupa sa agrikultura natin.
Thank you, Secretary Gonzalez. We have an additional question from Professor Clarita Carlos on this issue.
No, I don't.
Walang question si Prof.
Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Ang,
Yeah, well, just want to
he's informed.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Mr. Ang.
I just want to ask about comparative advantage when we're talking about rice.
Comparative
Because that's a basic
advantage.
economic precept that says, you shouldn't make things that others can make cheaply.
Kaya ang ibig sabihin niyo kasi ng guys ng comparative advantage, no? In economics, kung hindi mo kayang i-produce yung isang produkto at mahina ang income mo, i-produce mo yung isang produkto na kung saan ka mas nakakaangat ka, no, sa pagpo-produce yun kaysa sa produkto na to. Yun yung comparative advantage na sinasabi.
Now, many people have said that the Philippines lacks a comparative advantage in rice. So should we insist? I think this is related to the question of MJ with regard to food security policy. Should we insist on continuing planting a crop that we clearly don't have a comparative advantage?
Yes, I think we do. Simply because it is of strategic value to a state to have a good supply of food. So that, again, like any crisis that comes, magkagera man, magkaalitan man tayo sa Thailand at sa Vietnam, sapat ang ating supply ng simulaan natin sa palay. Ngunit kailangan din yung lahat ng isda, lahat din ng nag-aalaga ng hayop. Kailangan yan lahat ay patulungan natin para kahit ano pang mangyari. At kagaya ng pandemya, nakita natin kaagad, napaabot na nga tayo sa sitwasyon na mahirap paniwalaan na ang Pilipinas ay nag-i-import ng galunggong. At dapat naman siguro, hindi tayo nasa ganung sitwasyon. Pagka nagka-problema ulit, mahirap na naman tayo. Kaya kailangan natin tulungan. At kahit na sinasabi namin mas mura, bili na tayo ng bili, may strategic na problema yan. Dahil pagka nagkagulo, wala tayong supply.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. If we have no further reactions on this issue, I think we'll wrap up our round one. Secretary Abella.
Maliban din siguro, may ano kasi yung hindi na
So this is round one.
Also a question of ano tawag dito, compassion, no? Kasi kung pakikinggan mo talaga yung mga magsasaka, halos maiyak na nga sila. May nakausap ako isang business consultant, sabi, talagang kailangan natin, may gawin ang mga farmer ang ating agriculture industry to be more competitive. Hirap na nga sila. Ang putos dito siguro is kailangan talaga matulungan sila. At after all,
Actually, hirap na hirap yung ating mga mangingisda at mga magsasaka, no? So dapat ang pamahalaan ay makagawa ng batas upang sila ang ma-prioritize, no? Dapat yan ay maisip ng susunod na pangulo ng ating bansa.
most of the poor people are in the rural areas. There are about 23 to 26 million of them. 12 million of them go to bed hungry at night. So dapat matugunan ito, mabigyan tugon ito. And so dapat kasi ang ating bottom lines are not just revenues but also our people. The well-being of our people should be a major aspect of our public policy.
Thank you. And we have Secretary Gonzalez raise his hand first and then Caliodi.
Well, hindi natin dapat payagan na ang isang crop like rice will keep on losing its time we planted. No? Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na hero ang ating mga magsasaka kasi pumapayag pagtanim ng palay na nalulugi. At the same time, tama yung keyword ni Mr. Marcos, strategic. I think rice is a strategic crop. We need a law or we need some policy that will define that when a crop is strategic, government must not allow the planting of it to be losing. I am talking probably of certain subsidies. Ang rice hindi natin pwedeng payagan na mawala sa atin. And of course, there are some possibilities. For example, why are we planting rice sometimes when areas where there is no water? When it needs water, there are a lot of places like the Liguasan Marsh.
Secretary,
The Alusan
we're
Marsh.
sorry, we're out of time. We'll have Caliodi react.
Magaganda yung sinasabi, kahit yung sinabi ko lahat sila, maganda yung sinasabi na para sa food security. Pero as long as yung ating bansa ay patuloy na sumusunod sa mga patakaran na ini-impose ng WTO, hindi mangyayari yung ating ginagawa. Kaya kailangan natin isang gobyerno na maninindigan na tutulan yung mga imposisyon ng WTO sa atin. Dahil kung hindi, ay patuloy tayong papasok dito yung mga produktong dayuhan at hindi natin mapapaunlad yung sarili nating agrikultura at ating sariling industriya. Kaya kinakailangan natin na yung ating gobyernong susunod ay may tigas na labanan yung mga imposisyon na ini-impose ng WTO. Dahil dati tayo marami tayo na puproduce ng mga magsasaka natin. Pero ang problema, pasok yung importation, kaya yung ating sariling produkto hindi umuunlad. Dahil binabaha tayo ng dayuhang produkto kahit agricultural.
Thank you, Caliodi. And nothing further from our candidates. And thank you to our panelists for all the questions. And thank you to our candidates for answering all the questions very exhaustively. At dyan po nagtatapos ang ating round 1.
Round 1 is finished.
Ng SMNI News Team.
Ito. Pusa natin. To. To guys.
Magandang araw sa inyong lahat na tagapakinig. Ako po.
To. Ito maganda to eh. Maganda yung susunod guys.